I gotta get in the groove.
It's easier when you bite your lip.
I know. Good morning, everyone. PowerlifeTV broadcast. Pastor Brian.
Pastor Tasha.
Here to give you another great broadcast. It's Monday. Monday morning. And this is the day that the Lord has made.
We will rejoice and be glad in it.
Amen.
Amen.
So we're on a little bit early today because we're doing a special broadcast with our good friends Barry and Pam Barnes. Welcome to our morning.
How y'all doing?
Y'all came to the early morning show.
Yes, we did.
Tell me, how was it waking up this morning? It was okay?
I woke up about 30 minutes before the alarm went off. Just to make sure that I got here in time.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have that nervous energy coming?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we're excited.
So we are here to share some things. We've been talking about the blended family.
Yep.
And
Yeah, it's interesting, in America, we think that the blended family is a new thing, but it really is not.
Right.
Because of World War I, World War II, and because healthcare was not always what it is today, the blended family always existed. The reason why is because one of the spouses would die. And the thing that's different now is that most blended families are a result of a separation where they've had children, or it's a result of a divorce. And so that's the different dynamic that has sort of entered into this culture. But the blended family is nothing new. And what's so interesting is that I think the church didn't quite know what to say.
Yeah.
The church didn't know what to say, and because we're such proponents of the traditional family that we don't want to talk about what happens when somebody dies. And then you have children and parents, and we're all adjusting to this new situation. And how do you do this with a Christ-centered attitude?
Yeah.
I mean, especially, it's one thing to have a public face,
Right.
but at home, that's where all of the, I don't know what you want to call it, the public demeanor comes down at home.
Yeah.
And that's where all the character pressures come into play. It's one thing that you can be polite to somebody you don't know, right? A complete stranger, but you get home and your wife has bad breath and she hadn't washed the dishes, and it's easier to get in the flesh. It's a little easier to get in the flesh.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about character.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it's something that's funny you said because the marriage is supposed to be the closest to your relationship with Christ.
Right.
And this is where you learn faithfulness. This is where you learn godly character in the marriage. That's why God used it to.
Let me pick on you a little bit.
God used it to let us see the parallel, and we want to get into your story, because I like what my wife led off in, blended families have always been here, but I don't think we've actually talked about it as much as we do today.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, there's not enough ministry on it.
No.
Yeah.
There really isn't, because I feel like people get into, even in the divorce situation, they get into these situations and they don't quite know what to do because we have all these feelings stirred up. And one of I think the most phenomenal ones is this feeling of, if I love this person, then I'm betraying the other. And there's a kind of a thing with biologicals. Biologicals like to stick together.
Sure.
And so if you're loving someone who's in your mind non-biological, there's that sense of, well, by loving them, I'm betraying the other.
Right.
So a lot of dynamics, but I think we want to start out by hearing your story.
Yeah. And if Barry, you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. Well, it's going on 11 years now. First wife, I'd say, died and went to be with the Lord, and so it was a situation where I had some grown children. I have 6 children that there's 3 in an 8-year gap, and then 3 more, and so It
We're
was
not
a
gonna ask how
difficult.
that happened, but
I was,
I know
I was,
you-
yeah. That's another story.
We know, yeah,
That's
but
another,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
another broadcast.
Somebody else somebody might have paused on that point.
Right. And they used to,
Keep going.
people would ask
Yeah.
me, "Is it all about the same woman?"
Yeah.
The same,
Yeah.
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 It doesn't look like it. It looks like, but
Yeah, I know they want to say, what were y'all thinking?
Yeah, exactly,
Like,
exactly.
y'all didn't know how it worked after once or twice.
Yeah.
You know, that's what my parents say. They say, you don't know how that happens?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I know.
Well, we can interject a little here in family planning is that, I always used to tell, hey, the mama decides how many children.
Yes.
Daddies can think men can enter into a relationship thinking. Yeah, they're gonna decide, but the woman decides that.
Well, we
So-
hadn't quite decided we were done. I'm just putting that out there.
Oh.
Just for the record. I'm just saying.
So keep
We're
telling
gonna
your
have some
story,
more
Bear.
kids.
Bear, go ahead. Bear, we're talking
We're
about
gonna
you.
call him Abraham.
I'll just say this: it's been an enjoyable
Yeah, it
situation.
really
Yeah.
has.
Raising
Nice.
children,
Oh,
it's
yes.
been great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yeah, so and the difficult thing sometimes with the older children, was that I just felt like in my heart after a period of time that I knew that the Lord, I said it like this: I'm not gonna, grow old by myself. I just felt like that was in my heart, and the Lord had put that there. So I just, entered into a journey at that point that I'm gonna just, I was real busy being a single father, so just focusing on the Lord and doing those things,
Right.
and then the Lord brought lovely Miss Pam along. So
What's interesting is I knew both of y'all separately
Yeah.
before y'all ever came together.
Right.
And I think to expound upon what you just said, I think a lot of times people don't recognize that when your companion dies, it's a lot different than when your parents die or when somebody else in your family dies, because there's that aspect of loneliness that gets in there. And we really experienced that with our good friend Deborah. There was that loneliness that nobody quite understands unless they've been through it.
And I want to ask this question too. Did you feel any? You said the Lord put that on your heart. Was there any feeling of guilt at any point? Like, oh, should I do this, or will I feel like I'm betraying my?
yeah, I mean, there was some of that. There was some of that, but it was really it had to be. That's why I knew it was the Lord, because He really healed me of that.
That
and
is so
delivered me from
important.
that. Right.
Yeah.
So
And
you got healed before you got into a
Yes,
relationship.
yes,
That
yes.
is so
That's
good.
so important.
And
Yeah.
I will mention this, that there's another aspect of different, I guess, than you have from divorce situation is that I'll leave it like at this is there was not that I didn't cease to love somebody that I was
Right.
married to. So that was another
Yeah.
interesting
Yes.
transition. dynamic.
And you didn't have to stop.
Right.
For instance, loving your first wife.
Right.
You didn't
Right.
have to stop.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a situation like that, there's no betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
There's no betrayal in saying, yeah, that was my wife and I loved her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think though that was important to say, because people have that question, that burning question: how could you do this to your
Right.
wife?
To your wife. Yes. Yeah.
How could you do this to your wife? But you said it. You said the magic word, and well, you said the right word.
The anointed word.
And that's what we were talking about last week about healing. You must get
Yes.
healed,
Right.
because you do not attract what you want. You attract who you are.
That's good.
And
yes.
you're broke.
Right.
If you're broken going into a relationship, blended or not, you're going to attract broken people.
Right.
And so,
And when you go into a
She can-
new relationship,
yeah.
your new the new person that God brings into your life, they deserve your focus.
Yeah.
And you should not still be in some respects, give it to your wife, what belongs to the new person who's in your life.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you took a lot of time. How long between?
It was 4 years.
It was
Yeah.
4 years.
Right. Yes.
And typically it takes about 4 years. Did you know that?
Really?
It takes about 4 years to truly
Get healed.
get healed of a strong,
Trauma like that.
and not to say that there's a time limit or a time that it should take to grieve, but I think the Bible says that you should take time to grieve, not that we should receive a grieving spirit or something like that.
Right.
And I think that you should not go beyond a certain time.
Right.
And so about 4 years is about right. Yeah.
So Pam, give us your story, you know, and how it all worked out. What was the dynamic for you?
Okay, so mine is totally different from Barry's. But first, I do want to say thank you to y'all, because you're right. We don't hear about this. I wish I would have heard something like this many years ago. So thank you very much. I came from divorce, and not just divorce, but there was abuse, infidelity. So I had a big lack of trust. And so
you had been betrayed.
Yes. And so speaking of children, I have 2 grown children, so we really have 8 altogether.
So wait a minute, how many were there in the Brady Bunch?
We're the modern day Brady Bunch.
Yes,
there were 6 there, we're 8. 4 boys, 4 girls.
The blended
9 grandchildren. So, but I truly believe that healing is where it has to start. I trusted someone that said all the right things. I'm not going to say that person was not a Christian, but I didn't see the fruit of it. So I would like to say, if there is someone out there pursuing a relationship, don't ignore the red flags, because you can't change those red flags.
Yes.
And so anyway, I remember I was so hurt, not really because I loved him so much. I was just crushed because I thought I was doing the right thing.
Right.
And it wasn't. But anyway, so one day I can remember it was a defining moment actually in my life. I was sitting at my desk, and I was just, I had cried and cried and cried, and for weeks. And I just remember praying, and I sat there and I said, you know what, God, I am so done with, I love the institution of marriage, but I said, I'm so done with picking out the person myself. I am happy if I have to be by myself the rest of my life with you being my husband.
Wow. Yeah.
And
I remember that.
I
remember that you were very content
I was
to be single.
That was it. I was content.
Yeah, that's so good. I didn't want to
That's okay.
break your flow here, but I want to interject because many people are looking for the next. I have to, and I'm not saying that, Barry took 4 years, but I like to say this. Adam didn't know he needed a wife.
Sure didn't.
Until God said it's not good that man be all one. So when you get to that place of contentment, and I always say when a person stops looking to be married is when they're ready.
That's right.
To be married. And that when you came to that resolve, I believe that God said, okay, she's ready.
Yeah. Well, and I was, and that was the first time that I had ever really turned everything over to God. Something that I really wanted to make work, I turned it completely over to Him, and I meant it with my entire being. And so, and I told Him, I said, if you want me to be married, you're gonna have to bring me the person, because I'll be honest, I was so afraid to pray for the right man that God had for me, because I thought
to make your list.
How about to make my list,
because we like to make a list.
I thought He was going to bring me
let's talk about
someone that was going to have a Bible in their hand and beat me on the head with that Bible, with their pants up to here, and look, and He brought me this.
I'm saying that Barry come strolling in there, huh?
Now I love what Pastor Brian says, because he says 6'6".
6 foot tall.
6 foot tall.
6 pack.
6 pack with a 6-figure income. 6'6". By the time you have everything
That's the devil.
By the time you have everything on your list, that's what you got.
So and it took a little bit, you know. I mean, I'm not saying that he walked into my life right at that moment, but what happened at that moment is, you know, we hear this all the time. You feel this weight lifted off.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
true.
come on.
I totally felt free. Finally, I felt free of that.
You finally found a guy that.
Well, no, I'm saying that when I
Okay.
finally let it go,
Let it go.
and
Yes.
let God, I finally felt free.
Yes.
And then I was just so happy.
Yes.
You know, I wasn't. In
Uh,
fact, when
yeah,
God
yeah.
paraded him in front of me, I was like,
No, no, thank you.
because there were people around me going, ooh, you know, kind of like that. And I'm like, no, you know, I'm good. But, you know,
Yeah.
he had other plans.
The Holy Ghost said it.
Yeah.
It was.
And you know, and you can. It's almost like, this may sound funny, but it's like y'all been together forever.
It feels
The way you
really
the way
does.
you get along, you know, I watch you together.
That's
You know,
very true.
I'm very observant, and I watch you two together, and you can tell that you're two healed and whole individuals.
Yes, your hearts have melted
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And you know, you never want a marriage where two people are being independent. You want to be interdependent. And y'all have really reached a place of interdependency where you depend upon each other. And that's just a beautiful picture of what God intended for marriage.
So you go
ahead.
Well, I wanted to now, okay, because you guys are good. You know, y'all are working together.
And by the way, y'all dated outside of the eye and earshot of your kids, which I think is really good. Because you decided whether or not you liked each other
Yeah.
first.
Right.
Yeah.
Before you went
So
to
you're taking the words out of my mouth. Keep going. No, keep going. No, I mean, I wanted to say that. Yeah, keep going though.
before you started introducing each other to your children.
Right.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah.
I'd like to take credit for that, but I went to counseling for as a family with my three younger that were at home at the time, and so I was, you know, it was more at the time pushing really that my kids needed counseling. I felt like. And actually turned out that particular counselor, they didn't open up too well too. But I received from this counselor quite a few good nuggets.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How did that make you feel about your kids not really opening up or feeling comfortable with the counselor?
That was difficult.
Because
that
it's
was
a dynamic,
really
yeah.
really difficult. But again, like for a guy thing, is I can fix it, right? I can fix the car. I can fix
come on.
this.
That's right.
And I couldn't fix it.
I get that.
So it literally, I will say, you know, it's one of those things that you like, okay, Lord, I'm going to trust you in this, you know.
Yeah.
And so the Lord, I guess you could say it really stepped up, even praying more for my children and their wholeness. And I continue to do that as they, you know, grow on into adulthood. But this particular counselor talked to me about dating and said, you know, that's one thing you need not do is date any women in front of your children and bring them around your children. And I was amazed at, this is a little plug for seeking out expert, you know, godly advice, right?
Yes.
Because I would have never thought of that.
Right.
And I said, why? And she said, well, if you start entering into a relationship a little bit there, and your children may start having thoughts about, hey, I might get a new mom here, and then it doesn't work out, and then it's another loss.
It's another loss.
Wow.
So, and one thing we
That's
have
the
to
truth.
always see about the blended family, no matter how we got in the situation, whether it be divorce or somebody died or something, or a separation, there's always the experience of loss. That is typical of every blended situation. So then you have a grieving heart. You're always dealing with a grieving heart. And so and that's not to say that we're receiving a spirit of grief. I want to make that clear.
Right.
Because it's something, it's an emotion you can feel without receiving the full weight of that spirit, okay? But to say that you don't have that sense of loss of some sort, that's just, you know, I would like to say that it's not fair for us to put all of these religious demands on people that they not have a feeling because they love Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
good.
not
That is
fair.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's not
really
fair.
good.
That's not right. We're human.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you'll recognize that Jesus experienced the same feelings that
We had
do,
emotions.
the
Yeah.
same emotions. He experienced love. He laughed in the Bible. I saw that when his friend Lazarus died, even though he knew he was going to raise him from the dead, he was moved.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He actually
Oh,
weep
yeah.
with those who weep. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And
Yes.
so it's okay to experience feelings, and it's okay to let the tears fall, so to speak. You know, the Bible says that Jesus bottles every tear
Yes.
that
Oh,
falls
yes.
from our eyes. So when we get to heaven, there's going to be a bottle
Oh wow.
full of every tear, and he'll say, I caught every one
I care about
because I care.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It means something to me. When you hurt, I hurt.
Yeah. And when you enter into the joy of the Lord, you know, he's going to show you. See all those tears? Look at your joy now.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you know.
Wow.
And he wants us to
Yes.
have the joy today,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
The younger kids had a hard time with it, and it was kind of rough. And
Oh yeah.
The older kids are living off on
the
their own.
older kids were okay.
Yes. Well, yeah. Right after their mother passed, the oldest got married literally 2 months later, and it was all planned at the time, and we went through with it. Even though she's like, "Dad, we can push it off," and I'm like, "No, it's okay." And then 6 months after that, my second oldest got married. So, but they were already,
In the process.
yes, one of them was already moving. It had already moved out of state, going to Bible college. So, and then the third one was, in a relationship and got married. I think about 3 months. Yeah, only a couple months after us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how was that for you, Pam, knowing that there was some kind of little uneasiness with the younger kids, and when you finally did enter in the picture, how was that?
Well, I told Barry that it's not going to be me personally that they wouldn't like. It would be the idea.
Right.
And so I
You
intentionally.
understood.
That is
Yeah.
so good.
I
Yeah.
intentionally.
Say that again.
It wasn't me
Yes.
that they didn't like. It was going to be the situation.
Yeah.
So whether it
Wow.
was me or
Anybody
Susie
else.
Q or whoever, it would just be that their
It's not
dad,
personal.
right, or
Wow.
was bringing somebody in that could possibly be trying to take the place of their mother. And so we talked, and I told him, I said, I've got to establish trust with them. I have to let them see that I'm not coming in here gonna start setting rules and things of that nature and try to take the place of their mother, and that they could be comfortable talking about their mom.
Even in front of you.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So,
yeah.
one of
That is so
the
good.
things that we have to recognize about blended situations, this is typical of blended situations, is that you're going to have lower trust and higher expectations. Whoever comes in, I already don't trust them.
Yeah.
I already don't trust them.
Yes.
But yet they have to be a 20, not a 10.
Yeah.
They have to be in other words,
You
they have to
10
be
times better than my mom. And
they have to be better than
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
tell me what
Yeah.
perfect looks like.
I don't know. I
What
mean,
does perfect look
Yeah.
like?
Exactly.
And so you could see
So good.
where it's really
So
a
good.
tough situation. And besides that, I think the toughest situation is the new wife and the daughter. It's typical as the relationship between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law being sometimes, it could
Difficult.
be a difficult, that's a good way to put it. Thank you. Just like that situation can be difficult, it's the same with a blended family and the daughter
yeah.
and the new wife. So talk to us about that. How did you
Okay.
overcome that lower trust and higher expectations?
I didn't push her. I never pushed her. And I'll be, God worked that out so quickly because we thought it was going to take a
Forever.
long time.
Can I
Because
stop you real quick?
uh-huh.
You said her. So you had two boys.
That was still at home.
And he had a girl.
And
So
True.
that was still at home. So
Yeah.
the boys were a little bit more receptive,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they trusted a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Well, you know, boys, it's like,
Boys kind of
it'll
like,
work out.
we kind of
it'll
all
work
can
out.
start working it out in our mind, and we can,
Well,
Let me get
I
on
read
with
we
a
can
story.
logically figure it out. Yeah.
Well, I read a story, and it was about a man who, he was about 14 when his mom died. And he said he liked the new mom. He could go to her and say, hey, you know, I need help with this. And there's this girl, and what do I wear? And this is the things that he felt that you need a woman, or you need a woman's opinion on these things. So he tended to grow close, you know, whereas the children who had moved off, they were like, why do you like her?
Yeah. The older girls were. They seemed to be fine, and you know there was never any friction. I'm sure
Right.
they had to work through, you know, which is
Yes.
natural, but there was never any friction. But our sweet little Bethany, you know, because really, you know, she was so young. As
How
young
old
as
was
she
she?
was she 10?
It was 2 weeks before her 10th
Yeah.
birthday. When
Wow.
So as young as she was, you know, she had to go through all of that at home, and she sort of took on the role of being the mother and being the one that was going to protect her dad and didn't want it, you know, so it was harder for her.
Right.
But I never pushed her. And even when there would be difficult times, I just kind of would sit back and let him take care of it, or it would just work itself out. But eventually, I just kept getting her to help me do stuff. Like when we were planning the wedding, I got her to help me pick out things. We weren't going to register for anything, but our pastor said get her involved, and we had the best time, and we are the best of friends now.
Yes.
And let me just say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're not sitting up here telling you that everything is perfect.
Right.
And there are still times, but I will say that when you have God involved and the Holy Spirit involved and is the center,
Right.
no matter if it's he and I or
Right.
Bethany
Yes.
or whatever kid is involved, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. And it's just...
We talked about this on the phone, and you said something that was, I have to let this come out.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be love tests
Yes.
to a relationship like that. And what will happen is, especially the child will test, you know, the consistency or how solid that love is by doing acts of, you know, of
test.
I mean, basically, listen, if you, any kid knows how to push a parent's button.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, there are going to be love tests in a situation like that. They'll figure out your triggers and they will try. But tell us the power of agape love. Now, just to define it, agape love is the type of love that's not based on emotion, but it's based on decision. And no matter how you feel or what the circumstance might be, once you made it a decision to love, don't matter what happened after that.
And we have about 2 minutes, so go ahead and.
So what I did was I made a decision that to be the adult. And there were times when it was hard in the heat of whatever was going on to think about that, but I would step away, go in my room, or he would come in and we would talk about it. And he's so good about calming a situation,
Diffusing.
but I knew that I was going to love her no matter what. As far as I'm concerned, I know that they are not my biological children, but I will mother them as if they are, all of them.
that's so
Bonus
good.
mom. That's what
And
That's
they
so
are my bonus
good.
children, and
That's
all
good.
of our kids, all of our in-laws, all of our all get along so good, and we truly are blessed. But yeah, I just had to make that decision to be the adult.
Yes.
And let her. She had to work it out.
Yes.
But I would be there for her.
Right. That's so good.
You didn't force the issue. You just, but you had the resolve.
Right.
You know, we say love is not an emotion. Love is a decision. And it's so good. Our time is so far.
I have to say one thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people get discouraged in these situations and they think, I've tried to love and I'm not doing it anymore. But I just want to say that it takes about 7 to 8 years to really, get a solid family dynamic. So if it's not happening in the first year, for instance, and you feel like you don't have the family closeness that you want, don't give up.
Don't give up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Barry said something one time, and I don't even know the context of why divorce even was in the conversation, but he said something that, this was even after we were married, but the question came up about, will y'all ever get a divorce? Or somebody at school's parents were getting a divorce, and he said, just flew out of his mouth like, that's not gonna happen. And to me, after being gone through all of that I had gone through, that was another defining moment, if I can.
That was
good.
Oh gosh, yeah, and I don't even know if you know that.
That's beautiful.
We have to stop, but I want to end with this. That is the love, the agape love. When you make love statements like that, when you I think you heard his resolve, you heard his commitment, you heard his faithfulness, and I think that's what really helps a blended family. When everyone understands you're in it for the long haul.
And we're not a blended family, but one thing we always say is divorce is not an option.
Right. And every one of our children will serve the Lord all the days of their life.
Yeah.
They may try to stray, and we'll grab them real quick and say, no, you won't, But that's our time. We're gonna have to stop it right there. I pray that you receive this word. I pray you enjoyed Barry and Pam Barnes. Amen. I did. I enjoyed it.
It was an honor.
We need to do our part too, because I'm pretty sure people have questions and all kind of stuff. But you proved it out,
that
with
the
God.
word works.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The word works. God works. Love works, and so I'm just so happy to have y'all as friends and have y'all here. Amen. Amen. So we love you today. Listen. Come back and watch us tomorrow. We probably will be on early again. So we have a few things going on with our kids, so we come on early now. But we love you. God bless you. Let us speak a word over you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. We declare shalom and blessings over your life. And we declare that Jesus is Lord and he's upholding all things by the word of his power. Be blessed. We love you.